Taylor James Johnson here for Film Obsession. I just saw the new indie smash hit, The Florida Project. This is from the director who brought us the smash hit Tangerines. It was that movie shot on an iPhone with transgendered prostitutes. Now this director is tackling children. And when I first heard of this film, I'm like, oh, he's making a children's movie. That's very interesting. But this is not a children's movie. This shows the gritty world that some children have to live in when your mom's a stripper / prostitute. For those of you who don't know what the film is, it's just kind of it's kind of a slice of life film where it's just the everyday going-ons of this little girl who lives at this hotel that's on the outskirts of Disney World. So this little girl kind of lives in this strange no man's land where there's, the most wonderful magical place on earth just a few minutes away, but she's, they're playing in the dumpsters and in the alleys. And it creates this really interesting world that they live in, this world that's never been shown before on screen. And it felt so real. Like you're watching this and it feels like a documentary. Like this camera crew just followed these little girls around as they got into trouble in this hotel. Willem Dafoe is in it, and it's one of Willem Dafoe's most subtle, really subtle performance. He just plays like a normal guy. And he's really good at that. You're used to seeing him play demons and monsters and gangsters, but he just plays like a normal guy who's just trying to run a business. He's just trying to get through the day. And it's really interesting because we've never seen him in that role before. But the true star of this film is the little girl. And it's really hard to judge a little girl. It's hard to judge a child on their acting. It could just be the work of a great director. But the good thing about this little girl's performance is that it didn't feel like she was acting. You didn't feel like, oh, that's a good child star. Like, no, this just felt like a little girl. And that's the thing I could praise most about this film is this little girl just felt real. It was a true character who was living in this world of filth. She was basically living in an unsupervised. It almost even felt post-apocalyptic. This little girl had no rules, and she was just running around in this like Lord of the Flies like chaos. And that created these really interesting moments where, sometimes she'd be having a lot of fun, and then sometimes she'd be thrown into this really horrible, dramatic situation that was too much for her little mind to handle. And the film, it's balanced really well. It just goes from day to day to day to day. It's just a slice of life. It almost feels like a Richard Linklater film. It feels like Boyhood. I think it captured childhood a little bit better than what Boyhood did. This is just girlhood, and it only takes place during one summer instead of 12 years. This film is almost a metaphor for itself. This film is kind of revitalizing the indie film community in a way of showing that, like, hey, there's still some interesting low-budget stories out there to be told. And you don't necessarily have to go to the Disney World, the big Disney movies. Just look at the outskirts of the big studios, and that's where you'll find these interesting films, and that's where this film takes place, in the outskirts of Disney World. It's really hard to like these characters, but like I told my wife, sometimes movies are more interesting when you don't like the characters. They keep making these mistakes, they keep getting into these situations, they keep making their situations worse, but that's their character, and that's why they're interesting. If we had movies filled with people we liked, the movie might be boring. This relationship between this mother, who's a horrible mother, and her child, and you're rooting for them to have a happy ending, but you know that they might need to make some hard choices, some hard decisions to get to that happy ending, to get to that magical place at the end of the rainbow. But I guess the best thing this film offers is its little moments. It doesn't really even have scenes, it just has moments. Like there'll be a moment of them like playing at the pool, and then walking down an alley, then taking a bath, then watching TV. And And then a little like plot point will happen, and then it'll just go back to them, eating lunch. Just living their day. You're just sitting there like watching these people's lives just unfold. The pacing's a little slow. Sometimes you can get bored. But it takes place in this really beautiful location that's just this horrible, bright purple. But, the colors are very vibrant, and they just make the screen shine. And I love the shots that just follow the little children as they walk through these fields of grass, and you see the landscape of Florida in this world that it kind of like exists in this like vacation limbo, in this gift shop hell where their entire world is just nothing but billboards and balloons and tourists and just like the hint of Disney in the background. Like the hint of hope is off in the distance in their future. But they're also just kind of enjoying the life they're having, getting into trouble. The scene opens with them like getting into trouble, and you're like, I don't even like these kids. These are horrible kids. But kids are horrible sometimes. And I gotta commend this movie for like showing like, yeah, kids can be horrible little brats. Show it. Yeah, like, do it. Like, we don't want these kids to just be, like, sitting around being happy. Like, we want to show them, like, vandalizing stuff. We want to show them... That's what kids do. The cinema shows life, and we got to show the life. Even if life is gross, it has kids spitting on things. Ugh. But, yeah, this film is only for artsy-fartsy indie snobs. If you need a superhero in your movie, don't go see this. But if you want to see something real, something gritty, something that you're all, like... feels like halfway a documentary, a film that makes you sit there and think, how did they film this? Is that just a real moment, or is that scripted? And that's what I liked about the film, because you're sitting there like, how did they make this? This feels like they just followed these people around. It feels like a reality show, a documentary, but it's Willem Dafoe, so you know it's not. And I hope he gets some recognition for this subtle performance. Sometimes those are the best performances, where you're just normal and you're just being a human. The mom, whoever played the mom, was good too, because she was like just awful and horrible, and I hated her. And she did a good job of getting me to hate her. So that means she's a good actress, unless she's like that in real life. But that's how good these performances are, where you're like, are these real people? Are these real people? I don't know. And that was refreshing to see. If you're an indie snob, go see it. If you're not, just wait a few months and Thor will be out. All right, well, this has been Taylor James Johnson for Film Obsession. And, yeah. That was my review. This is what my wife has to say. Did you like it, baby?
I don't know. I'm still processing.